Hey guys, welcome to the second part of my Maya 2011 basics tutorial. Since we talked a little about the outliner, let's talk a little about the hypergraph. You can access it by clicking panels and then hypergraph hierarchy over here. Let's drag this out. Okay. Now what we have here is basically pretty much the same thing that we have with the outliner. Let's create another object and see what we get. Let's go for a sphere. Again, we can either click on the sphere in the polygons tab or go to create, polygon primitives, and click on sphere. Let's drag this out and yeah, there we go. We have another object in our viewport now and in our hypergraph. What we can do is we can either place them in whatever way we want to by clicking on the freeform layout mode over here and just play with them. Set them whatever way we want to. Alright. If you want to go back to the formal layout, we can simply press the button again. Well, there we go. Now let's see what these things are made of. Let's go over here and press the input and output connections. As you can see, we have three more nodes in here. The first one represents our settings for the object, as you can see here on the right. I will explain this panel in just a few moments. We have width, height, and depth. Basically, these are the current settings which this cube now possesses. The next node represents our geometry. In other words, the position of each vertex or point on the X, Y, and Z axis that combined with the others create our 3D object, in this case our cube. The third and last node represents our shading network. Basically what I mean by that is the material which is applied on our 3D object so that we can actually see it. If the link between this and the others would have been broken, this little guy over here, we wouldn't have seen the object like this, right? Alright. Anyway, let's return to our original view and see what else we can do. Press the scene hierarchy button and let's proceed. This one over here. Before I close this quick rundown of the hypergraph, let me show you real fast what parenting and grouping means and what are the differences between them. If we middle click the P sphere node and we drop it on the cube node like this, this is called parenting. Now what parenting means is that whenever we move the cube, the sphere will move along with it. Basically its pivot point will be moved to where the cubes is. If we want to move only the sphere, we can select it and simply just move it. Alright, since we just parented these two objects, let's see what grouping means. First, let's separate them by just middle clicking the P sphere node and dropping it somewhere else. Alright, if we want to group these two objects together, we have to select them like this and then press Ctrl G. Now, opposed to parenting, we can move the objects together like this, or resize them, or we can move each one of them individually like this. There we go. Alright. Now, to be fair, I don't really use the outliner or the hypergraph all that much, and by that I mean I almost never use them. I suppose it's just a thing regarding preference. I simply didn't find much use for them, but feel free to use them if you so desire. Okay, before I forget, I have a couple of more things to show you. Let's go into the 4 panes view to show you what I'm talking about. If you click on an object and press F, the camera will move in on it, filling as much space in the viewport as it sees fit. If you press A, it will move to a spot where it can show you all the objects that are in your scene. If you wanted to do the same thing in all the other views at the same time so that you don't have to go into every single one of them, you can simply press Shift and F or Shift and A. Alright? Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, we're gonna take a look at the channel box. What is it? Well, it's this thing over here on your right. What we have here are basically coordinates regarding translation, rotation, and scale on all the 3 axes. You can edit these as you see fit. You can modify the location, the angle, the scale of an object. In addition to that, you can also get in and modify the whole set at the same time if you want. Like this. You just click and drag, write in a number over here, let's just say 0, and there you go. Right? Something else that's cool is that you can also do this. Say you want to scale this sphere on the y-axis. Just click over here where it says scale y, put your cursor over in the viewport, click your middle mouse button, and just drag your mouse around. It's basically the same operation that you would be doing by using the resize tool. Alright? Under our channel box, you can find the inputs of our objects. Say you want to edit the number of edge loops of subdivisions on this cube. We simply have to click on polycube 1 and add accordingly either in width, height, or depth. We can even edit the properties that we talked about earlier in the hypergraph. At the bottom of the channel box you can find the layer editor. Now this little panel over here is really useful when you're working with a busy scene. Let me explain. It more or less functions like the one in Photoshop, except the layers here don't stack, meaning it doesn't matter in what order you put them. How do you create a layer? Well, simple. You click on the create new layer button and there you go. Let's make a little test on these two objects that we have over here. Let's make a layer called cube and one called sphere. Alright? We can just rename this, call it cube over here. Just double click it. There you go. Make a new layer and call this sphere. Alright. And now just put them accordingly. The cube in the cube layer. Right click and let go of that selected objects. Same for the sphere. What we can do now is turn off or on a certain object like this, or either put it in a template mode so that it doesn't bother us anymore like this. Alright? Okay, now that we finished with the channel box and the layer editor, I want to show you one more thing before we zip this tutorial up, and that is the attribute editor. Now there are three ways we can access it, either by pressing Ctrl A, alright, either clicking the tab over here, or going at the window tab and clicking the attribute editor over here. Alright? Now, you can look at this panel as pretty much the big daddy of them all, and what I mean by that is that it contains a lot of cool stuff that you can work with. From the settings you can find in the channel box over here, to the inputs you can find beneath that, all the way to the actual shader that's applied to the object that you have selected. Now, I won't go deep into explaining every nook and cranny of these panels right now, because either way we're gonna cover them in future tutorials. Right now, you should be pretty familiar with the interface, have a basic idea of what's what, know how to create a simple primitive and edit it out. Feel free though to play with whatever setting you like and get a feel of what's happening, especially in the shading panel. Well, this pretty much wraps it all up. If you want to save, you can simply go to File and click Save As. The path would automatically be pointing in your Scenes folder found in your main project. Next time we'll be covering some basic modeling and tools to help us create some interesting and cool stuff. Maybe some texturing. We'll see. Either way, it's been a pleasure. I hope this tutorial helped you out. Once again, this is JSEP, and I'll see you guys next time.